10-second delay. And you're muted.
Just said 4 paragraphs full. Sorry, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to the Kent School District listening session in collaboration with the South King County Discipline Coalition and the Office of the Education Ombuds. I'm Yordanos Gabramlak. We'll get deeper into introductions in just a bit. First, I just wanted to share a little information about the listening session, kind of what to expect for tonight, and then go over some listening session guidelines, and then we'll get on with introductions, and we'll also listen to some anti-racist principles. We'll guide you through the evening. So the listening session, this was a space that we wanted to create, and again, doing so in partnership to really provide space for BIPOC communities to not only share their experiences within the school system, but really have it be a place where their expertise is something that leads systemic change. Their expertise is given space to breathe and really be valued in systemic change. So for tonight, it is a 2-part meeting. For tonight, we'll be hearing experiences, expertise from not only students, families who will be joining us, but we also have folks from community-based organizations who have relationship with the school district who will be joining, because it really does take all of us. This is collective work. And so tonight will be a space to listen to those experiences and gain from those expertise. As I said, this is a 2-part meeting. So for the second meeting, that will be an opportunity for the school district to share work that they're doing, to actually echo back what they heard from tonight, and then also to talk about some systemic changes to consider moving forward, given the expertise shared tonight. I am going to very quickly go over some listening session guidelines, and what will be even more important, if I may say so myself, will be the anti-racist principles that we will hear a little bit later on. But just to go over the listening sessions for tonight, I'm just going to go ahead and go over them really briefly here. So the focus of the guided questions that we will share a little bit later on here is to guide the conversation and to use the conversation that flows from it to center perspectives about how the school system is operating, and the basis for what it means to have a trusting and productive working relationship with the district. This is an opportunity to reflect on systemic issues and systems change. Individual families and district representatives may decide to make plans to meet outside of the listening session as needed to resolve ongoing concerns or questions. We will ask participants to be conscious of each person having time to share insight and experiences. We will encourage everyone to participate by agreeing to listen without judging or interruption. We will ask district representatives to listen openly and not try to answer or resolve questions that come up in the conversation until the second session. We commit to respecting family and student privacy as we discuss large systemic concerns. In order to enable full open sharing and maintain the focus on listening to perspectives on systems issues, we will have designated note takers. Note takers will capture general themes of the conversation. These notes will not include specific examples or identify individual students or families. Themes will be synthesized and shared with the district. We will work to connect students and families to appropriate staff for resolving individual situations. Within a week of this session, a follow-up, so meaning next Thursday, a follow-up session will be scheduled, and this will allow the district to have an opportunity to share what they heard and how they are working to address these issues moving forward, as well as plans for continued systemic changes work in partnership with families and community-based organizations. So those are just the guidelines for the listening session. So again, just really listening tonight. And with that, I am going to pass it on to Mahogany to further us along in the introductions.
All right. Well, you passed it over right on time, because that PowerPoint, it was something for me to track it down. But let me see. Let me get it on the forefront here. All right. So let me clear that up. That's what she just went over. Briefly, I just want to let you guys know, we really want to take time to center community in this, because that's what we really do at the South King County Discipline Coalition. That's who the coalition is. It's our community. It's Black and brown families who oftentimes have these negative experiences in systems that were established long before any of us, had a chance to have a say in them. But we're in a time now where everybody's voice is being brought to the forefront. The issues that we never really had a chance to be a part of, or, just the inequities that are kind of baked into our system. We're at a point where everybody's taking things apart, we're deconstructing, and we're figuring out how to reconstruct in a way that doesn't harm people because of what they look like or how other people may perceive them. So a very important part of South King County Discipline Coalition is the Antiracist Principles. All of our advisory members have taken the People's Institute training for anti-racism and undoing institutional racism. And we really try, when we're making tough decisions, to recenter on these principles and really center ourselves and make sure that we're prioritizing the relationships with people. So I have it on the slide, but I'm just going to walk you guys through them. The first one we have here on this, actually, I'm going to work from the PDF that I sent out, or I'll do both, okay? We have analyzing power. So it says here, as a society, we often believe that individuals and their communities are solely responsible for their conditions. Through the analysis of institutional power, we can identify and unpack the systems external to the community that create internal realities that many people experience daily. Analyzing power is something that's really important for what we're doing here today with these listening sessions, because when we're on the call, we see a lot of people and we have a lot in common as human beings, but because of how the system, the education system, how it interacts with communities, it creates a sense of division and how we get things done together. And so this whole listening session project is really designed to get us to kind of step away from this power over model that's common of all systems in America right now, and begin to shift more to the power with and power to. So for a lot of people who study leadership, that's something that's familiar to you. And for those of you in the school district who maybe haven't heard of that before, I encourage you to look more into ways to share power following this listening session. Another one listed here is developing leadership. So anti-racist leadership needs to be developed intentionally and systematically within local communities and organizations. Again, that's a big part of the Discipline Coalition's mission, is really centering on the value that is inherent in all people that often gets undermined by the systems that are designed to undermine the humanity of some people. So in developing leadership, not everybody was taught, the value and the inherent possibilities within each person. And so as we're developing anti-racism in our society, it's really important that we shift that dynamic intentionally and constantly, because we have a long way to go. Next, we're going to look at gatekeeping. Persons who work in institutions often function as gatekeepers to ensure that the institution perpetuates itself. By operating with anti-racist values and networking with those who share those values and maintaining accountability in the community, the gatekeeper becomes an agent of institutional transformation. This one, it's really important, and it's kind of hard I'd say for people who don't have an anti-racist lens or aren't working on developing that anti-racist lens, because even as a coordinator for South King County Discipline Coalition, I'm a gatekeeper. Teachers are gatekeepers, administrators, there's gatekeeping happens at all different levels. And it's really important that we don't take things that we hear today. Granted, the community shares the gift of their feedback and their responses with us today, that we don't take that personally, because it's really an effort that we're all undertaking, a vulnerable process that is to transform these institutions. And if we don't stay open-minded to that process, then we are perpetuating what we already know harms people, and that's present in the results. So identifying and analyzing manifestations of racism. Individual acts of racism are supported by institutions and are nurtured by the societal practices such as militarism and cultural racism, which enforce and perpetuate racism. And I'll just say, for me, and something that we constantly talk about is just the collectivism culture isn't really upheld in America. A lot of times it is about individuals, individual pursuits, individual accomplishments. And this process is really taking a moment to be present with each other. And I think that a part of the change that we're trying to push is that we do see ourselves in each other. Even if we don't look exactly the same, we see ourselves connected to the issues that ultimately impact all of our culture and the world that we're passing on to our children. So next, maintaining accountability. To organize with integrity requires that we be accountable to the community struggling with racist oppression. And I think that's something also that's pretty hard. Maintaining accountability, being held accountable is hard. It doesn't matter who you are or what you're being held accountable to, but it's so important to making sure that we're really living out our values and that our perception, what we think that we should be perceived as by other people is truly, what we are, that our intent and impact is, it doesn't match, right? Okay. Our intent and impact, it doesn't always match, but a part of maintaining accountability is continuing to do the work until you are living that truth and other people can see and celebrate you doing that. We all have implicit biases biases that we may not be aware of that, that perpetuate different harms. And it's important that we take time to be accountable and be intentional in undoing that. So sharing culture is the next one. And culture is the life support system of a community. If a community's culture is respected and nurtured, the community's power will grow. So I'm not sure if you guys have read Dr. Deborah Sullivan's Cultivating the Genius of Black Children, but I really love how that book talks about building cultural competency and the importance of embracing the cultural capital that people of different cultures share with us. And that's just going to be a little piece of homework for anybody that hasn't read her book yet. But it really is important for us to understand and embrace that culture has a meaning larger than what we know to be our own culture, and that we have to continue to work to build cross-cultural relevancy and literacy. And that's also a part of what we're doing here today, is sharing culture and building culture together instead of, trying to let the dominant culture stop everybody from being able to benefit from these systems that are supposed to benefit all of us. Next, undoing internalized racial oppression. And that shows up as internalized racial inferiority, which is the acceptance of and acting out of an inferior definition of self given by the oppressor and is rooted in historical designation of one's race over many generations. And this process of disempowerment and disenfranchisement expresses itself in self-defeating behaviors. And internalized racial superiority is the acceptance of and acting out of a superior definition, is rooted in the historical designation of one's race over many generations. The process of empowerment and access expresses itself as unearned privileges and access to institutional power and invisible advantages based on race. So it's one group of people who may be telling themselves, I'm not good enough based on somebody else's perception of who they are, but it's not really true to who they are. It's not really respecting their humanity. And it's people who are saying, I deserve whatever I have going on, this privilege that I have, without really thinking about where that privilege came from and whose humanity was compromised, which is ultimately all of our humanity is compromised. You can't compromise somebody else's humanity without compromising your own. And so that's the internalized and inferiority and superiority, semantics. But anyways, undoing racism is the single most critical barrier to building effective coalitions for social change. Racism has been consciously and systematically erected, and it can be undone only if people understand what it is, where it comes from, how it functions, and why it is perpetuated. And this is something that we all have stake in, that we all should be working on. It's a constant spectrum for all of us to continue to do this work and come together. And as you see, it is a barrier to building effective coalitions for social change. And so us coming together is already a step in the right direction, but staying in it through no matter what happens tonight and going into the next step, and just being able to continue to stay centered on why we're here, which is undoing the racism that impacts families in Kent School District. That is why we're here, and all of you guys coming to the table shows that you have an interest in being a part of that change. And although it may be uncomfortable, we're gonna stick this out. So, kudos. There's a couple of them that aren't here. Learning from history. I didn't put that on the slide. That was my mistake. But history is a tool for effective organizing. Understanding the lessons of history allows us to create a more humane future. And another one that's not here is networking, which is the growth of an effective broad-based movement for social transformation requires networking or building a net that works. As the movement develops a strong net, people are less likely to fall through. So those are the People's Institute for Survival and Beyond's Antiracist Principles. I know I went over them kind of fast. I'm excited to be here with you all, and I kind of do talk fast, but I did send you guys the PDF, and I encourage you guys to, look into the trainings if you're interested. Get some books, check them out from the library, participate in local conversations about anti-racism, and just continue to stay invested in this process together. It never stops. You take a moment to recover from the devastating truths that have not been a part of, our conditioning as a society, but they are now, and we're making them a part of them now. So kudos for everybody for being here. But let's see. Before we get started, I just want to do some icebreakers with the community and introduce the community before I really go into introducing the Discipline Coalition. And also there is, I want to give the time for a family, or not a family member, but a community member to share their story. I know that somebody does have to be off the call before 6, but I just want to open the floor to community, and I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. I'll share again, when it makes sense. But I really want to open the floor for community to just let us know your name if you feel comfortable. You can say like what school, if you feel comfortable, whatever you feel comfortable about identifying yourself and what brings you here today, and what helps keeps you strong and resilient just into 2021. What gives you the strength to come to this table and do this work. So I want to open the floor to community and also community-based organizations. If you feel comfortable introducing yourself.
Are we just doing everybody at once?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, since I start with an A, I'll go first. My name's Abril Mitchell Ward. I have the pleasure of being here today to be what many of us other parent leaders are to be a voice for children, our own and other children that can't speak. What's keeping me encouraged is just knowing that our work is going to make it better for our kids. It's been hard during the whole pandemic, but meeting with other leaders in the community, other parents that I know mirror the same concerns and experiences that I do and my children do is what keeps me going and keeps me here. So welcome, everybody. And I have kids that are in Kent and Federal Way districts. So
Thank you for sharing. And thank you for welcoming us to the space. You know, it's community led. So if you don't welcome us, then we ain't welcome.
Well, you welcome me. So I welcome us all back. We're here together.
Okay, Mahogany, I'll go next since my name starts with the letter C. I'm Carolyn Solitaire. I participate in a lot of things that South King County has going on. I'm not in the community, but I'm always there because it takes a village to raise a child. So I come to you as a parent, and I'm going to be on the listening end. Thank you.
Thank you. That's like my auntie, because she is always here. She been here. Who wants to introduce themselves next? I'm just going to be quiet, and I'm going to let people call themselves out. I'm not going to call anybody out.
Happy to go. Mahogany, I love your energy, and I'm wondering, do you drink coffee at this late hour? I feel it over the virtual space. That was beautiful. Thanks so much. Want to also thank Charisse for the invitation to attend this conversation. My name is Shukri, and I was hiding from the children, and they found me. Give me 1 second. Okay? Okay.
Open the car.
Okay. Oh, I'm opening the car. All right. They found me, you all. I was hiding in the car. Listen, okay. So I wear many hijabs in the community. This is Khalid. Say hi.
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 And I'm a mother, yes, a community organizer. I work professionally at King County, and I'm also a candidate for King County Council District 5. I am bringing my whole self to the space, and I look forward to the conversations we're going to have. Thanks so much for the invitation.
No, this ain't no coffee. This all me. I like how you bring in your whole self. I love that holistic, that's part of community. Everybody needs to be holistic. Who else wants to introduce themselves?
Hello, my name is Delia. I am a parent in the Kent district. I'm just really ready to be here to really help some admin and staff know what's going on really in the district.
I feel grounded in that power that just came through with Delia. Delia's bringing the power.
Okay, so I guess I'll go. My name is Charisse Rhodes. I am part of South King County Discipline Coalition, but I'm also a Kent parent. My daughter also goes to school through the school district. But I'm also going to be honest, this is going to be a hard and tough conversation for me because of the fact that if my son wouldn't have went through all of the horrific things through the district, I actually wouldn't have stepped up into this role now. So I'm going to be honest and very transparent that what brings me here and what keeps me grounded is I'm sorry, y'all missed the mark when it came to my beautiful babies, but I'm not going to allow you to miss the mark when it comes to my grandbabies. So that's what keeps me grounded, focused, and that's why I'm here.
I appreciate that, Charisse, because that was right to the point. real transparent.
Me too. I had to be quiet because I really want us to take moments, to let things settle in. I know I can get excited from what you guys say too, but I think one thing I've learned from this listening session process is that taking some silence to let things settle in and let the power of what is said settle in is also very important. It's counter to the culture that, we have to socialize into to go to public schools. But I want to encourage you to embrace that in this time. Let things settle in on you, even if it makes you uncomfortable, because that's what we're here for. We're here to embrace these truths and embrace our babies together. So thank you, Charisse, for bringing some more power. Okay, you guys holding it down, getting us grounded. Anybody else want to introduce themselves? Community-based organizations. All right, well, you guys feel free to chime in, introduce yourselves when you do speak, if you choose to speak today. But I'm going to go on and introduce South King County Discipline Coalition in partnership with Charisse, who's also a coordinator with the Discipline Coalition with me. South King County Discipline Coalition is a coalition of families and community-based organizations who take time to listen and learn with community as we're building advocacy and leadership within the community. We have trainings about knowing your rights. We have trainings about social emotional learning. We've had Dr. Deborah Sullivan, who I mentioned before, but I really think it's important you guys check out her book, Cultivating the Genius of Black Children, because that's really what we have trainings around, is how to help people cultivate that genius, how to help our young people, our young Black and Brown students build their social emotional skills, their ability to deal with life. And we are wanting to work with the schools and push the school districts to change culture within those classrooms, so that way we are not perpetuating the school to prison pipeline, which is really the basis of why we exist, is to abolish the school to prison pipeline, to change the system from choosing punitive responses to our children that's often fueled by unconscious biases, and sometimes conscious biases, but like just really shifting that narrative to be more nurturing and fostering and respecting the humanity that is our babies, our children. So Charisse, did you want to say a little bit more about before I pass it over to Charisse to say more about the community? Like I mentioned before, there is a community member who wants to share their story and doesn't have much time today. And also, I want to acknowledge that Kent School District, they have to say some things, for the recording on their system. But we want to make sure that we're centering community in this conversation and community voice. And you guys are guests listening. And so you guys will be able to do whatever you guys have to say and acknowledge to the board when it is appropriate in the space that is community led. So Charisse, I know I caught you at a weird moment, but did you want to add a little bit more to that and transition it to our lovely community member who, just take over?
Yeah, no. The community member is able to stay the whole time because of the fact that she understands the significance in this. So she was able to make some switches and some changes in order to make that happen. No, I'm pretty transparent. I'm hoping that with this, instead of so I think the importance of this is we don't look at this as a two-part thing, right? It's not a two-part and done. We look at this as a way we are helping you guys start the conversations, but hopefully you guys also change on how you interact with people, right? And build up another table so that those that are the deepest impacted by certain situations you see their brilliance and you build up that table and co-collaborate. I'm tired of parent engagement, right? That stuff don't work for me because it's one-sided. But you really look at this as community collaboration, right? That we're solving the situation and issues together. I hate how I don't know, we're looked at as a bad thing, and you guys look at our deficits, but you don't look at the assets and the brilliance and the things that we bring. We're resilient for a reason, right? So like what you may see as a dark mark, right? Like I see wisdom, I see things that I'm able to achieve, and I would love for this to be a way that we start to build upon that. Um, and then another reason why normally I host this, but I can't today because of the fact that my most important person here today, when I talked about what we were doing today, I have my lit leader. That's my leader in training that also wants to speak to let you guys know, like, more than just my story on how I felt like it hit her, but she wants to use her voice and let you guys know, like, how it's impacted her. And I don't know, that's something that as a mother it's hard for me, but I think that you guys also need to hear. So I'm hoping that you guys surround my baby with all the love, because of the fact I feel like that takes a lot of courage. And yeah, but no, you hit it on the mark. She don't need no caffeine, right? Like she is like this all day with a toddler. Don't know how she do it, but no.
All right, Yardinos, we're going to pass it back to you, the Discipline Coalition community who wants to introduce themselves, have introduced themselves, and will continue to introduce themselves throughout Kent School District. Please keep it brief. This is a listening session. You guys can talk more next week. But all right, I'm going to go on and pass it back over to OEO.
Thank you, Mahogany, and thank you for everybody who introduced themselves. And as Mahogany shared, as we go on, if you feel the calling to say a piece tonight, share an intro, feel free to do it. Just because, you know, we did it before doesn't mean that it has to stay there. So you can continue to introduce yourselves throughout this meeting until we all log off tonight. So keep that in mind. As Mahogany shared, I work at OEO, which is the Office of the Education Ombuds. And just to share really, really briefly, it's a statewide agency here in Washington that provides information and guidance in resolving individual student concerns. We also do training on different topics concerning public K-12, anywhere from special education to discipline, to bullying, to attendance and truancy. So if you are a community-based organization and would like for training, feel free to reach out. And then the other part of the work is serving on policy committees and really using the work that we actually see in our daily work to help influence policy. So that's just a real quick, brief information about OEO. I want to toss it to Melissa to introduce Kent District, and then want to circle it back to community, and we can start a dialogue.
Thank you, Yordanos. I am Melissa Larmy. I'm with the Kent School District. I'm the Director of Communications and Public Affairs, and I'll be the only staff member speaking on behalf of Kent School District this evening because, as you mentioned, Mahogany, and as we agreed to in our partnership and our work for this is not about us this evening, and we are here to listen. We're so honored to be in a partnership with you and in doing this work, and it is the first of many. And we are here because this is aligned with work we have been doing and we're committed to doing on behalf of our students. It's aligned with our core values and it's aligned with our strategic plan, but it is in service of our students. And we have a history. We recognize where we have fallen short and we know what we want to do. We know where we want to go. We have a vision, but we know we cannot do this work alone. And so we are committed to doing this work together. We are so honored to have the community here with us this evening. We are listening with open ears, open hearts. And so I would just ask the staff and board who are here this evening to say hello and introduce yourselves in the chat with your name and your title or your role, so that the community knows that you're here and who to connect with if they'd like to after, because your contact information, all of our contact information is available on our website, but we will not take up time going through one by one to introduce ourselves this evening. However, we are available for one-on-one connections. And so on behalf of Superintendent Dr. Watts, our board of directors, and all KSD staff who are here this evening, and those who will watch after the fact, because this is being recorded, I do want to say thank you. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for speaking up on behalf of yourselves, for sharing your experience, for speaking for others, for speaking your truth, for helping us improve. And I also want to be sure that not just because this impacts me and is important to me, but because this is a commitment for our district and our board, I want to make sure that we acknowledge that we are, although virtual, we are gathered upon the ancestral lands of the Muckleshoot Indian tribe as a Kent School District, who the tribe has historically lived throughout the area between the Cascade Mountains and Puget Sound region. And we want to honor the fact that we dwell in the land of the Muckleshoot people. So thank you, Jordanos, and I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Melissa, and thank you too for the land acknowledgement. Mahogany, if we could get the guided questions up, I'll read them. And these are just guided questions. All might apply, and feel free to answer to all of them. What's most important here, I would say, is to share what's working and what's not. So yes, we do have guided questions, but again, the most important thing is to hear your voice and what's working and what's not, your insights. We'll keep these up. I'm going to read them too, though, also one by one. So, what have been missed opportunities for dismantling racism in your district? What have been missed opportunities for centering BIPOC families in decision-making? Do you feel welcome in your school? And if you feel welcome, you know, that's great. Share that. Share what helps you feel welcome, so that it's encouraged. And if you're not, we know that plays a factor in feeling like you're actually part of the space and feeling like you can actually, in a productive way, in a meaningful way, help support your student and engage with staff. So if you don't feel welcome, to share what contributes to you not feeling welcome, either at school or at the district. All right, we've got a box blocking the rest of my questions, trying to move it 1 second.
Sorry, I was looking at the chat. Some notifications popped up and I wanted to see.
No, it's okay. And then, how can the district meaningfully gather and report feedback that, I'm trying to move the box again, sorry, that builds trusting and productive relationships. Thank you.
I didn't pull anything up that time.
No, it's not you. It's when it pops up, it's blocking but I love it. I love that the conversation is happening in the chat. Keep talking. Don't worry if it blocks me. We'll make it work. So those, again, they're guided questions. Feel free to just speak whatever you feel. And the most important thing being what's working and what's not. And for us to really center that today. So with that, I would like to open it up, popcorn style, whoever feels called to speak, to just speak, and we'll do it that way.
So while I'm waiting on the one parent who was able to make the time work, and she's trying to decide how she wants to do it. I know two parents that want to share their stories who are here with us tonight. One is Abril and one is Delia.
Okay, I don't know. Are we trying to decide who's going to go first or what?
You started talking. We can let you go ahead and finish.
You know,
and then we can have Delia go next.
Okay, so I was just messaging Charisse actually because when I wrote the story, I'm going to be honest, I hadn't heard Charisse just come out the gate with her transparency. It just kind of humbled me to where I'm like, well, hold on a minute. If she's that transparent, maybe I need to put my big girl panties on and not have her read the letter that I wrote anonymously. Because at first I just felt like, you know, sharing my story was something that I'll never not do. But because we decided to leave the district and my intentions is to not have to drive all the way to a whole nother district forever because I am a single mom of 5, I kind of wanted to remain anonymous so that there wasn't any retaliation or any weird stuff that goes on sometimes. So with that being said, I do have the 2 kids that experienced what I'm going to speak on today. So I will also, if you guys need to at the end, know that that they are open to also sharing their experience or answering any questions you all might have out of their own mouths. Sometimes I feel like when you hear something out of the mouth of the actual person, it's a lot more relevant and we can understand better how to serve a child if we hear it straight from them. So
I just want to say, Queen, tonight it's all about you and those boys. If there's any question, that will be follow-up for next week.
Okay, so the experience that I'm sharing tonight came from, we were in the district. This was right before the pandemic. The year before the pandemic, shall I say. We chose to leave the district because my kids, we were attending Nilly O'Brien, to be honest. And I had, we were experiencing, we transitioned up here from Ellensburg and we had went through some homelessness. And so we knew that we were going to reload to Kent. And so while we were waiting for our housing to come available, we were using the bus. My kids I started to notice like a change in their character. Like they just were a lot more frustrated and they were just, my kids are very happy going, but they were frustrated. They were just really down all of a sudden. And I didn't know what it was. I kept asking them what's going on, blah, 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 blah. The staff that I originally encountered was just the support person there. And she was amazing. So I didn't, she checked, she checked in with me when I checked in with her. It was just nothing for me to question. I thought that I had joined a school where everything was going to be just fine. After a while, it just started being really, really bad. And I walked in on my son one day and a child who never cries, was distraught. I kept asking him what was going on, and he still couldn't tell me. I ended up getting the story from his little brother that attended, and he told me, Mom, every day that we go to school, the same group of kids is waiting for us at school, and they bully us when we get to school. They're waiting for us when we are on the playground and when we get off of school. And my kids are not like, kids that are just, when you see them, they're not like, there's not anything that's super identifying for them to bully them about, except for the fact that we were going through homelessness and they didn't have clothes that were, they came clean, but their clothes were not name brand. They didn't have, daily haircuts, and they just, we were living real life. I felt like, my kids, when they told me that the part that bothered them the most was that they kept reporting it after a while, because every time that it happened, there would be staff there. Like there would be staff when they get on the bus and they'd get there. The bus driver obviously can't handle all that, but when they'd get off the bus and get back on, there would be staff there. And they kept saying stuff to, like they'd sneak in and say stuff, and there just wouldn't really be a response other than, kind of just separate yourself from them. That wasn't something that they were able to do. These kids were telling them, why are you so dark? They were attacking their things they couldn't control. They were throat punching them, like walking by, slapping them on the back of the neck, throat punching them, at times, saying they were pulling pants down, punching them in their guts. They were just being ridiculous. And there was such a big group of them that were allowed to run amok like that it just became overwhelming. And what my experience is I ended up going in 3 different times before I ripped my kids out of the district. When I went in the first couple of times, the first time it was like, hey, like this is going on, and I got the whole, well, who is it? And, they would offer excuses. Like one time my son said who it was, and one of them was like an oversized, not a child that looked like she was a bigger girl. So, and my children are big as well. So don't think I'm trying to be big or weird, but my kid, the one of the girls that was the only girl in the group, she probably looked like she was a 9th or 10th grader, but she was in 5th grade. And this girl would also be in on it. And then she would also do stuff. And then she started trying to date my son, which is like a whole separate thing. And then totally they ran a joke on him about that. But it was just like a huge thing. And when we bring it to the front surface, they would make excuses and say, oh, well, they're just being kids, or didn't so-and-so ask you to go out with her? Well, you were being nice to her that day. Well, why, there was never a situation where we called parents in and parents were told what their children were doing at school, which in my opinion is what I felt like should have happened at a minimum. Aside from any suspension or restrictions or anything, the most that ever happened was they were told to come in the office with my kid and sit there for 30 minutes, which then that brought on the comments of you're a snitch, you're whiny, just a whole bunch of things. I never thought that it was the intention that adults just came to school and just did this on purpose. So don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But I felt like the bullying got so out of control that even the teachers allowed themselves to be bullied by these group of kids. And when I went in, on my 3rd time going in, the second time it was like the first time. I kind of just went in. I was in between work. I was working for the airline. So I came in on my lunch break, kind of said again, this is still going on. My kid had to get enough, umph in him to even tell me, because he felt weak and he felt embarrassed that he was being bullied by a group of kids, and one of them was a girl. So he didn't want to tell me. But on the 3rd time, which again was the time that I decided to take them out of the district, I finally talked to the principal there, and I was told that she just flat out admitted that we do have a problem with bullying, and it's hard for us to get control of it because it's out of control. You know what I mean? There was a complete disregard for the teacher. While we were in there, they called a couple of the students in there who came and called those staff members that were in the office out of their name. At that point, a parent should have been called. I just felt like at that point, that group of bullies were allowed to run the entire school. I was so frustrated by it that when I left, I literally got in the car and I took my kids with me and I went home, and I had looked at my son and he was in tears, and he said, see, Mom, you've gone up there. He was like, see, this is what happens when we tell, there's nothing they can do. Because I started getting upset with my boys saying, well, why are you not reporting this? Why are you letting them bully you at school? If it's happening at the bus stop and when you're getting back on the bus, there's staff members there. Why are you're not saying anything? Why are you not? And they were like, yeah, Mom, I am. He literally said to the staff while we were standing there, don't I tell you guys? And they were like, yeah, but nothing was done. I just feel like, with suicide on the rise and mental health being out of control right now for children, not just from the pandemic, kids being out of school and going from home online, I feel like this is not a time for us to go back to school. I'm very concerned about going back to school and kids, this bullying thing not being resolved. I'm in a situation where my kids are going to have to come back to Kent School District because I am not going to be able, because of my medical situation, to transport them, for too much longer. I don't want to be in a situation where I have to have my child regress. He's now in counseling. It's taken over this whole entire year and some change to rebuild his self-esteem. And that's what happens when you're bullied and you don't feel like you're being protected. Again, I don't think that it was ever anyone's intention for it to happen, but it has happened too much. My two sons, him and his little brother's a little more feistier, so he kept wanting to fight. So he got in trouble and they gained a little more respect for him. But my 13-year-old, he's 13 now, but he's a little more humble. And he was the one that is still in counseling and having to really rebuild his self-esteem. I'm sharing this with you guys tonight just because I don't want there to be a situation where we miss children and any other child has to suffer through this. Bullying is not something that can just kind of just be let go of. Children that are bullied go home and take their lives. Children that are bullied become bullies. Children that are bullied definitely don't learn. Not the same in the rate that we want them to. So I'm sharing this to make awareness of something that I'm sure you guys are already aware of, because I was told that this has been something that you guys have been trying to deal with that's just gotten out of control. I am trying to see what the district's plans are moving forward, and what maybe has been done in the last year that I didn't miss after I took my children out, that is going to be done to eliminate or at least have stricter practices in place for bullying so other children don't continue to fall in that space.
Thank you, Abril, for being honest and transparent and even stepping up, right? Like, because you could have easily just let me read off the letter, but I appreciated that it came from your personal voice and that you found, I don't know, comfort in even just speaking up and sharing your truth. Hopefully, Delia, are you ready to explain your experiences?
I gotta gain my composure, but I'm gonna have to put on my big girl panties and do it. My name's Delia. And my little one is also from Neely O'Brien, or goes to Neely O'Brien. We have, when I say we, as in my whole family, we've had issues since she transferred from kindergarten. And I'm going to be full disclosure, this was what y'all gonna need to hear. First grade, her education was above board. She was at least, at the very most, at the end of first grade learning curve, maybe the beginning of second grade. Okay. Her first grade teacher was racist. I did what I was supposed to do. Went to the principal, told them, they said I was lying. Tested her. I was right. Isn't that interesting? Second grade, we get a brand new principal. Okay. My child has 3 teachers all year. My child in the second grade had to learn how to fight because my child was felt upon the butt. She was groped on her chest and her butt. There was a conversation about suspending her, and I told them, if you suspend her, y'all gonna have to deal with me. Come to find out, at the end of the year, I found out that my child was choked from my child because she was scared to tell me. I had no notification, no nothing from this school. I am also a legally blind parent. I have told everybody, it's in my baby's file. It has been told to every single teacher she's come across, if you're going to give me something, I need it to be in email or in large print. That did not happen, still does not happen till this day. Unless I have to, turn around and ask 15 million questions about it. She also had her glasses in second grade stomped on. She and I asked to deal with that, never really got that situated. Even though supposedly vision is a really big thing in school, especially in elementary school, that was never really dealt with. But okay, I even went to the school district office, and I had to talk to him about those glasses. I had to talk to him about bullying, because those boys, it was 3 boys. Those 3 boys who felt up my daughter were constantly being dealt with, constantly being messing with my daughter. She was constantly in trouble because she was always fighting them off. And at the end of second grade, the principal had a meeting with me and said, oh, well, we'll put her in a class that doesn't have anything to do with them. We'll try to separate them because they don't need to be a part of, around each other. Okay, fine. Third grade comes around, and it wasn't right. This teacher didn't really understand how this bright, outspoken child, she didn't understand her. When we had a conference, she told me that she was hard to deal with, that she was loud, that she was aggressive, and that she's done everything that she could do to try to help her. That is when my baby got her first label. That was even moving into the pandemic, which was even crazy. This 4th grade year has I apologize. 4th grade has been a horrendous time for my child. We have learned that all of her rage, all of her frustration that popped up at the beginning of 2020, all had to do with the school, and how every time she was boisterous and told staff or admin what was going on, she was never really heard. And the fact that when people try to grab her, she would fight, because that's what has happened at that school. Now, my child has a mental issue that I am so happy that we have gotten a hold of. But because of the fact that all of that has happened, it has been something that I wish no parent to endure, which is to have their child try to take their life in front of them. I have tried a couple of times to take my child out of the school district, or not out of the school, out of this school, and have her move to a different school, which is even just down the street. I was told that is not a possibility, that I would have to self-transport. I can't drive, so that's not even an option. So I have to leave my child in the school. This school has done a disservice to my child, to my family, and at this point, she now has an IEP. And at this point, if things don't change in regards to how my daughter's treated, I'm pulling her out. And I have this child went into first grade wanting to get a college degree. She lost that brightness. She lost it. That bright star, that bright beam of, I want to go to school, I want to get an education, has dimmed tremendously. The only thing that keeps her going now is the fact that she has found a love for science on her own, not by the help of the school at any point. So I can say that there is some serious work that needs to be done in regards to dealing with children of color, that the biases need to go out the window, that the bullying has to stop, or there has to be a better way to handle it. So at least that the child who is the victim feels heard, that they feel vindicated, or at least that something's being done. Children these days are a lot smarter than what we think. And they tell us everything from top to bottom. And I've heard the stories of the bullying, and we've told her to fight back and to leave them alone and to walk away. Tell staff it doesn't work at all, because some people just turn a blind eye to it. So I will say that this school district needs to work on how to, like I said, to how to deal with children of color, even families of color. And they also need to deal with making sure that there is an understanding for the family and for the child when anything happens. And that's all I can say about that.
Thank you so much, Delia. Queen, I'm sending you virtual hugs. I support you. I see you. I see the beauty in that beautiful little girl you have. But the sad part, though, this was hard for me, like gathering these parents to get together, because I know that our district relies heavily on data, right? But it was crazy on how you can't put a data cap on personal experiences, right? Like, or that impact that families and children are feeling and witnessing. And these powerful parents stepped up, but we also had some parents and some youth that also didn't feel comfortable with coming. One, I have a set of twins. One wrote me a story about his experience, and the other one wanted to give a audio clip. He had a message that he wanted you guys to hear about his experience within the district. So should I read the story first or play the audio clip?
I was wondering, Charisse, before you get into that, because you made such a crucial point, I just wanted to echo it about data, right? And how you can't measure certain things that are qualitative, right? Like, not only that, but its impacts from that incident or the series of incidents and moving forward. And I mean, up until adulthood, till someone is, I don't know, 83, right? So I just wanted to echo that part about relying on data, and numbers can't quantify impact. So with that, yeah, please go ahead and share. But that needed to be echoed.
Thank you. So are we going to do the audio clip first, or do I read the other story, the other twin story?
Let's do the audio first.
Thank you, because I think I also need a minute to compose myself. So
Give me 1 second. I'm going to try and play. And I'm not hearing it come through. 1 second.
is the part that says also share sound clicked?
I'm not seeing that. 1 second.
I can read the twin story while you're trying to figure it out if you want.
Okay, if it's okay. If not, we can just kind of wait while you're, if you need some time, I don't want you to.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
I got a second. I just needed to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so it goes, my experience at Neely O'Brien. My experience at Neely O'Brien was bad. The teachers really didn't care about the students, especially the minority kids. It felt like they were just there to collect a paycheck. They were rude when you asked for help. Then they didn't give it to you. They make it seem like as if you were dumb for asking a question. When they did help, it was a whole class and not individual help. The worst part is, I felt like they were racist and favored the white kids over the black and Mexican kids. There is one incident that sticks to me the most. In the morning with a teacher, so I was walking up the ramp and the teacher stopped me. He was trying to pull me down by grabbing on my shoulder aggressively. I jerked my shoulder away and he was trying to pull me down again. This time he fell. He got up, went to the office, and I didn't know he had called the police. There was no investigation or nothing. It was just the, it was just, I'm sorry, we could happily see the cameras, so we know you didn't. And all I could see was the teacher, all they could see was the teacher fall. So that was what it was going on with, but they didn't have any witnesses saying that the teacher tried to push me, but I never pushed the teacher. And also, I don't understand why they called the police. And I didn't even know I was in trouble or anything. I was in the class. Nobody called my mom to come down there. I was in trouble, but no one ever even told me I was in trouble. I was still just in class doing my work when the vice principal and principal came in and told me to come down to the office. And when I got there, there was the officer. My mom wasn't even there, and they wanted me to talk to the officer. I was confused. How come they didn't call my mom? And how come, oh wait, I was confused, and how come they didn't call my mom? Or know her when or let me know when I was still in the class. My mom finally got there, but I was scared because the police were there. I wasn't going to go. I wasn't going to go into class doing my stuff, and everybody else was like more mean, and I felt like they had their favorite, um, who they like most, and like other people, now they just think I'm a bad person. Um, in the end all, this young man ends up this story saying that he felt like he was a bad person. Or is it because he was a black person, it's easily for them to call him a bully and stuff when really he's not. Then again, we have the other person, the other twin who also wanted to give his reaction to how he was treated also at this school. Who, even though mom didn't feel comfortable from him like joining in person, he still wanted to utilize his voice. And I hope that even if we can't play it, we can like send it or somehow where you guys are also able to hear his part. Is there any other community members that I'm unaware
Oh,
of?
we've got.
Oh, sorry, you can play
Sorry. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and
Okay.
give that a try right now.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, let me try that one more time.
My experience in media bias was the racism. Like, a kid told me that he can't wait till he grow up to be a cop so he can kill niggers. And that situation was in Hampton, where he was back to school the next day. And the next day he brought knives and stuff like that. He was just like a violent kid and stuff like that. And like my PE teacher, she would always like pick on me for no reason. Like I go in class and then she'd blame everything on me. Like when I wasn't even there, it was someone has to be me. Yeah, and first of all,
you don't do this. Not doing that. You're not gonna have
a lot of racism and bad teachers. Just not caring about the stuff you tell them. If something happens with one kid and we're standing right in front of that teacher, it's like, oh, it was Ramon or Tyrone. And even though we're sitting right there, like, they don't believe us, they don't believe us whatsoever. And that's kind of messed up because they say they're not racist, but they seem racist when you only believe in one kid. That's not true, and the other kid was telling the truth, and then that other kid gets suspended. Like, I never got suspended until I went to that school, ever.
There's another file, and I'll share that one. Just a moment.
Like, I'm not going to say I was the best kid at that school, but I'm not going to say I'm not a worst kid at that. You just say I'm going around bullying people when I don't like people getting bullied. Like, I've gotten into, like, fights for people bullying other people. And you're not going to just tell me, oh, I'm bullying this kid, I'm bullying that kid. When this kid's really starting the problems, and if you start problems with me, I'm not going to just walk away. When I tell the teacher, like, I tell the teacher, but they just don't do nothing, and they keep coming on, and then the kids, once the kids, like, once, like, the kids start trying to talk about me and I talk about them back, it's like, oh, you're bullying them, you're bullying this, you're doing this. And that's not the case. The kids only telling the half a story, but I'm telling you the full story.
Those are both audio files.
I couldn't hear anything.
You couldn't hear it?
No, could anybody hear that? Is it just me?
No, I didn't hear
It's not just you.
anything. I thought it was me.
No,
I'm sorry.
it didn't
All
come
right,
through.
let me try.
Okay.
Let me see.
Is this the audio for the twins? Anybody know?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yes. Yes.
You should have stopped me. I did the button, so it wasn't that. So it might be the type of file we received. I'll work with our multimedia specialist to see what we can do for next week.
I
when we
actually
come
heard
back.
it.
You heard it?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, it may play in our live then when we record, because I do believe that the file was included in the playback. So, but we'll make sure that it's part of the recording, because student voice is so important in everything that we do, particularly in community engagement. And I want to honor our students who shared their story. So either way, we'll ensure that this is played as part of this evening's event.
Thank you.
Let's see. Let me see if you can't hear this, let me know. But let me see.
My experience
Oops.
was the racism. Like, a kid told me that he can't wait till he grow up to be a cop so he could kill niggers. And my situation was in Auburn. He was back to school the next day. And the next day he brought knives and stuff like that. He was just like a violent kid and stuff like that. And like my PE teacher, she would always like pick on me for no reason. Like I go in class and then she'd blame everything on me. Like when I wasn't even there, it was someone has to be me. Yeah, and what's it called? It was just like a lot of racism and bad teachers. Just not caring about the stuff you tell them. If something happens with one kid and we're standing right in front of that teacher, it's gonna always be like, oh, it was Ramon or Tyrone. And even though we're sitting right there, like, they don't believe us, they don't believe us whatsoever. And that's kind of messed up, because they say they're not racist, but it seems racist when you only believe in one kid. That's not true, and the other kid was telling the truth, and then the other kid gets suspended. Like, I never got suspended until I went to that school, ever.
And there is a second one. 1 second.
Like, I'm not going to say I was the best kid at that school, but I'm not going to say I'm not the worst kid at that. You can just say I'm going around bullying people, and I don't like people getting bullied. Like, I've gotten into, like, fights for people bullying other people. And you're not going to just tell me, oh, I'm bullying this kid, I'm bullying that kid. When this kid's really starting the problems, and if you start problems with me, I'm not going to just walk away. When I tell the teacher, I tell the teacher, but they just don't do nothing, and they keep coming on, and then the kids, the kids start trying to talk about me like that, and I talk about them back. It's like, oh, you're bullying them, you're bullying this, you're doing this. And that's not the case. The kids aren't telling the half a story, but I'm telling you the full story.
All right, that's the full recording.
Thank you so much. So those were the few that I knew that felt comfortable sharing. Is there anybody else that feels comfortable before I share my experience within the district?
I will say this, Charisse, after you share, I would like to add some things that I forgot to share that may be important, and make some other comments after you're done sharing, if time allows. If not, we can talk about it next time.
No problem, Abril. Mahogany, did I miss any hand, or did anybody's mic thing light up?
Honestly, Yardanos, you're going to have to let me know, because since I screen share, if I pull up anything, you see the big old, I don't know.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot about that.
There's
part.
there's nothing in the chat, but I'll continue to monitor.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so my experience with Kent School District, I will say it starts with my first one. I have two kids who have had the opportunity to go within the district. My son, who is now 25, and now my 10-year-old daughter. With my son, I want to give some backstory. Before he came into the district, he had just had a horrific loss of his father. His father passed away when he was 4 years old. I was one of those parents that wanted the school district to know like everything about my precious boy, and I felt like at times it was kind of used against us. I say that to say there have been some bright spots, right? He had an amazing teacher. Her name was Ann Allsworth. She was at Neely O'Brien. So amazing that she took my son under her wing. And when he transferred from kindergarten, she was like, no, I'm going to transfer right on up to first grade right along with him. And that was amazing. But unbeknownst to us and also to her, she was diagnosed during that school district with cancer. So then it was the teacher assistant had to kind of step in, which my son, you know, being his inquisitive self, who I also want to say upon going into kindergarten, he was one of those kids that could have been tested for highly capable programming. That's how smart he was. When the switch happened, my son just had a normal question like any inquisitive kid would be. Well, where's the teacher? It wasn't in a mean to be disrespectful. It was just he did not understand how come the one teacher who was the help went into the leader role and the other teacher just disappeared. From him saying that, and maybe the teacher, you know, being new, not having a lot of experience, she took it as he was being disrespectful and unruly, and that was a disrespectful question to ask. But for him, he was just trying to make sense because of the fact that you have to think that this kid also experienced a situation with anxiety from people separating and just leaving like that, because that's how it happened with his father, that it was just a natural response and question. But this is where the situation got totally out of control. My son also doesn't like to be touched. He doesn't like to be pulled. He doesn't like to be pushed. So instead of telling him, like, you need to step out of the class and go to the principal's office, she decided to remove him from the seat and forcefully push him out of the classroom. That's when my son wanted to know what was going on and why are you touching me? Instead of me getting a call, by the time I get a call, I get down to Neely O'Brien with my 6-year-old in the first grade in the back of a police car in handcuffs. Because of the fact that he didn't understand why people were being unkind, and he was a walker. So what he wanted to do is he wanted to walk home to where he knew it was safe to have people who understood and could explain what was going on. So instead of making that call, which I'm just around the corner, you made a call to the local middle school, which is blocks away, to have a police come in or interject with that situation. I start off with this story because of the fact of my son being 25 years old, and during his adulthood, the only time he has dealt with police is through you guys' system. Which is what guides me to do what I do today. Because I never want another parent to have a J story, or another parent to feel like they are not understanding the system like a Charisse. Now I'll go on to my daughter. I moved from the bottom of the hill because I felt like it was an isolated incident with Neely. But the sad thing is there's missed opportunities all throughout this district. I'm now on the top of the hill. Years later, I have my 10-year-old daughter, and the first question, did I feel welcome? Let's just talk about the first time I walked into my daughter's school, which is Scenic Hill. Did I feel welcome when I came into the school? No. And let me tell you why. When I came in to fill out her paperwork, you know, with you guys' kindergarten roundup, and she came from an ECAP program because at the time she was severely speech delayed. I had a kid ask me a question a couple of times, and I thought he was asking if I was someone's parent. And this kid decided to get even closer to me so I could understand the racism that was coming out of his mouth to ask me if I was Ain't Your Mama. Now, the problem with that was I left my information. I did not leave my daughter's file because I'm like, hold on a second, right? Like, this is not okay. I waited 3 weeks for the principal to get in contact with me. So I can understand, like, what am I missing? What's going on, right? Obviously, there was something going on with this kid because that's why he was in the office. And this was clearly a recess time because you could see all the other kids on the playground. But I had to track the principal down, so that I could feel safe because this was my neighborhood school that I had to enroll my daughter into. That's the first incident. Okay. But I'm trying to be trusting, right? Because of the fact that now I have all these other skills. I'm a known pillar or known person in the community, right? We got this. Kindergarten was interesting. You know, kids bully. Okay. Yeah, she has a speech delay, so things aren't very clear. She also doesn't hear certain pitches. So to her, she thinks it's clear. A lot of times she wants to make eye to eye contact because it's easier for her to sometimes read lips to kind of understand also what's being said. Okay, so yeah, let me go back with my son's story. So I thought that dealing with racism when it came to kids would also be something that I would deal with in junior high. My son went to a few schools in the district. One of them was Mill Creek. One of them was also Kenwood. No, was it Mill Creek? What was it? Sorry, my son is giving me the correct information. I'm sorry. Matson. It was Matson. Sorry. Yes, I was wrong. Matson. Okay, so in Matson, we had an incident, and I'm not going to lie that my son didn't handle it the best in the end. But because of the fact of constantly being disregarded, when he would bring up a situation to a teacher and being told that he was misunderstanding it, he decided to handle this in his own way. Am I proud about that? No. But I can also understand on how these kids are feeling like they're putting a box to only have to defend themselves when adults don't intervene, when you do what you're taught to do. So in gym class, that was the first time my son, I'm not going to say the word, but was called the N word. After being called that quite a few times, he decided to handle it himself. Am I proud about that? No. Am I also unproud that he didn't feel comfortable to tell me, right? But I can also understand why he didn't feel comfortable because of the fact I was still trusting the system. I was still calling teachers. I was still going up to the school district and still things being disregarded. He felt like he had no choice but in order to handle himself. So finally, when he told me what happened, I take him up to the school and I go, no, we need to do something. And I was told that's not what the kids said. They called him a nigger and we misunderstood it. And they accepted that. Go back to my daughter. My daughter's having an issue with a kid at school. I tell her, well, maybe inadvertently you might have did something where this one particular kid keeps, ridiculing you. So she apologizes if she told him, I apologize if I did anything wrong. She was like, but, I just want to know, how come you're always picking on me? He told her because you're Black and she should be used to it. Let me go further. Was that first or second grade, Maya Janae?
I think first.
Okay. She thinks first. Let me go second and third grade. We have a problem. And while my daughter is getting on the school bus, older boys, because we have our sixth graders also go with our kindergartners, they're groping her while she's getting onto the bus. And these are older students. And then they're sitting next to her and pushing her into the window of the seat to continue it on. Go to the school. It's a bus issue. I go to transportation, right? Still not okay. And I can't even tell you what happened. And there's so many times that I couldn't tell you what happened because I would go and file a complaint. They would say they would do something, and then it'd disappear. I can say you guys did some change with it, where the younger kids are supposed to be in the front and the older kids are now supposed to be in the back. So kudos for that, right? But this is the same thing, like the messaging that is being taught to the kids. Now let me go a little older. Now, this is when I felt like maybe I need to be involved more, right? So I joined the PTA. I'm at the school any time that I could be there, right? My daughter's now telling me she feels invisible, right? She's telling me that certain things that I buy her, please don't send them to the school with me anymore. So I'm like, no, I'm going to be there more, right? I even became the co-vice president of the PTA because I'm like, no, I want them to know who I am. I want them to attach my daughter to me. Can I tell you another thing they did? School pickup. I'm like, okay, I got to get my daughter early. They give me someone else's kid. They're like, okay, here she goes. Me and the kid look at each other. We're like, okay, nice to meet you. The teacher says, you can go now. Go where? And where's my kid? Right? That's how much or how I feel like no matter how more you try to be involved, that you feel like you really don't matter. How can I say how you guys can gather feedback? Please stop with the questionnaire where I can't give any more feedback. It's a yes or a no, but not a why, right? Like it's so, some things just aren't black and white. Some things it just isn't. Missed opportunities. I wouldn't even know there were certain subgroups to be involved with if it wasn't for my PTA. And I'm gonna tell you, I went all the way up to the district meeting where it was all the local PTAs in this district that got together. And you know what? I learned one thing. They don't look like me. So how do you use that as a way in order to gather information? Right? It really needs to be those that are really harshly are really impacted. I'm sorry, they don't have the same experience as me. Maya Janae, do you want to explain some of how it made you feel? Here, you're gonna have to use this so they can hear you. Go ahead.
It made me feel like I really didn't have a voice. And it also made me mostly just like feel like the teachers were like against me. But yeah.
Why don't you talk about your pencil incident?
My pencil incident. I'm sorry, I can't say it right. But I was the class didn't have any pencils, and the teacher stared at me because I had a bunch of pencils and a bunch of pens, and she didn't ask me, and she just said that I'm sure Maya would share the pencils.
What about the other incident where the girl said...
But I never even finished.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then after a bunch of people started taking my pencils and stuff, and the teacher didn't even ask me, when I was trying to tell the teacher that they wouldn't give it back, she didn't care.
Now what about the one where... I'm talking about the one with the pen, and the girl lied and said that...
Oh, I had another incident where I had this cool pen, and I had some other school supplies, and the kid wanted it, and I said no, and she told the teacher that it was hers, and that I stole it, and she made me give my stuff to her. And when I cried, she said I shouldn't be crying because it wasn't mine anyway.
And did she ever ask you for your side of the story?
No.
Is there anything else you want to say?
No.
You don't want to talk about the stomach ache?
Oh, okay. I also used to have really bad stomach aches from anxiety to the point where like I would throw up sometimes, which was very hard because most of the time where I was going to go to school, I would end up throw up before I could even go on the bus.
So I say all that to end with this. My lovely school district sent me out a letter about COVID and asked whether or not I would be returning my daughter to in-person learning. And the answer is no, because I found out that the school was the reason on why she's having these stomach aches from anxiety. And I rather choose, even though she is not getting the most education-wise right now, but her mental health is in check. And us as parents, that should not have to be a sacrifice that we have to make. So on behalf of the Discipline Coalition, I'm sorry, but I had to be the realest I could at this moment. That I think as of all of us, because I also take my part as a parent, we all have to do better because of the fact of our sake of our future, our children rely on it. And like I said before, you failed my babies, but I can't let you fail my grandbabies.
Thank you, Charisse. And don't apologize. You have a dual hat. I appreciate you sharing. I appreciate both of you sharing. So don't apologize at all. I know that before Charisse shared, I think, April, was there something that you shared that you wanted to circle back on? I wanted to make sure that we give time for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Charisse, for that. For number one, I didn't think that tonight would be as emotional as it got for all of us. I thought we were just going to be sharing experiences. The fact that it's all Neely O'Brien, on one end, it kind of like bothers me. And on the other end, it kind of, in a weird way, comforted me knowing that I wasn't the only parent that felt like I had let my child down or missed the mark. You know what I mean? At my son, I let him, not the younger one, but the 13-year-old one, I let him sit through, and he actually has let a few tears down his face. I was going to let him speak, but it kind of bothered him. On one end, I don't like that he is, in tears right now, but in the other end, I'm comforted in something that he said. He said, Mama, he said, you know what? He goes, I thought that, he said, I seen it happen to other kids, but he said, Mama, I didn't know that other parents like you have kids that happened to. I thought it was just because we were poor, Mom, and because we deserved that. So I'm happy and grateful for this platform that we've been able to share tonight and all of that. And I'm gonna add what he wanted to add. And that was that the year that we ripped him out and all of this happened, one of his biggest concerns was that the only adult that he felt that was there to protect him, kind of a little echo off of Charisse's story, oddly. This one was not of its own. One of the bullies had been put, so to speak, in his, had been told that he needs to stop being bullied. and it was an aggressive tone that got one of the only adults that was
Uh-oh. Gabriel, you still there?
Looks like she's muted. Abril, can you unmute?
I'll just wait a bit.
Sorry, my phone was, he said that his name was Mr. M, and he was fired, and there was no kind of, warning or anything. He just kind of came back, and he too kept asking for him, and he kind of got very defiant and got in trouble because he felt like school was bearable if he had him there. And when he did speak up for him, that was taken away. So, as another piece of that, not only do we all know we need to be in the business of having other staff and teachers there that are of color that are willing to stand up for children, I think that it's also important to know that how it breaks down a kid when you just rip somebody that's there in that role of protection for children of color, when you just take them away without an explanation, or when they ask for that explanation, they get in trouble. So again, I was just happy kind of about the experience and platform we were given tonight to feel human and to share. And again, I hope that there's some change soon, because as I'm comforted to hear that they're so similar, I'm horrified that this was even allowed to happen, and it's still happening.
And my daughter just reminded me that it's not just the teachers that we need to think about how we approach our students. It's everyone that comes in impact with those kids. So my daughter was just sharing with me an incident that she had when she fell down on the playground, and she scraped her palms of her hands. And she said that she did what she was supposed to, and she went to the nurse's office, and she was told that she shouldn't be crying about this, that she should toughen up, and that her family has had worse injuries, I guess, than that. She was given a Band-Aid, told to go to the office. So my daughter didn't tell me like what was wrong with her hands or her palms, but she just kept wrapping them. I ended up finding later out that there were rocks in the palms of her skin that I ended up having to take her to the doctor because they got infected. But I'm just saying, like, it's the constant disregard or the constant being told that your issue is not enough for me to give concern that make these kids feel isolated. That is not healthy on their social emotional, which is also showing up in our, well, for some of them is also showing up in our discipline, because now they feel that no one is hearing them and they have to solve things on their own. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to also say that, because she would not let me go unless I didn't also repeat that. As you can tell, her speech now is better. She graduated out and didn't understand why, but I understand why. I asked the lady when she graduated out if she could give me an off button, and I did not receive one. That's my little humor. But I mean, there are some bright things, right? So like last year before the pandemic, my daughter had an amazing teacher who she felt like for the first time that she didn't feel invisible. But now also with the pandemic and me being able in the distance learning and me like being able to sit in her class with her and hearing it, I can also see how she feels invisible, right? How do you learn if you're never called on? How do you engage if every time you say something or you're not as confident with your text to put in the chat, you're ridiculed because of the fact you spelled something wrong, or if you speak up that you're not clear enough?
I will say this. There are, and I will admit, I have met some amazing people at Neely O'Brien. So I apologize for my voice. I have been crying and I'm trying to hold it together to tell you this. Don't get me wrong, there are some amazing people at Neely O'Brien. Two people that have known Adair since my child, since she's been there. They have been instrumental during the pandemic. They have come to see her. They have checked in on her to make sure that she is trying to do better. Possibly, they have, tried, giving her incentives to try to get her to move forward. And I can say that not everybody's bad, but when children speak up and they say that this person is phenomenal, or they say, I love this person, or I really like this person, and ask for this person to the same compliment as Abril said, don't take that person out of that school. That person is needed for those children who are finally having a voice, who are finally being able to stand up and speak a little bit of truth, if that's what they can possibly start to do, because there's a connection. And unfortunately, we need to stop having staff and admin who do not care about the children. It comes across, they sense it, they know it, they tell us about it, and they tell us about it. Every single person that they come across that does not at least try to help, because that's what they're there to do. They're supposed to be there to help, educate, and, be a part of our children's lives. Because they are there. Our children go to school to get an education. And if they don't feel like they can learn, or even at the very least be respected, then why are those people in the doggone system to begin with? I'm sorry, I had to get that out. But I appreciate allowing my story to be told. Thank you. I know it's harsh, but it's the truth. And I'm going to continue to be that hard-headed woman that is in the office. I'm going to be continuing to be that hard-headed person, or that loud, abrasive woman that comes to the school asking 15 million questions because nothing makes sense. I'm going to continue to be that parent, because I'll be damned if the school system takes away my bright possible engineer, possible paleontologist, possible marine biologist, as what she has told everybody around. So I didn't know that I just want everybody to know that we need to make sure that we stand up for our future leaders that are coming up behind us. Oh, you're gonna.
Delia, thank you for making me again feel human. While everybody's thinking on that, I wanted to like your daughter Charisse, my son will not let me rest until I say this part. He said that I asked him, like we always try to be with our kids, when you talk about a problem, let's talk about a solution and talk about things that from your perspective could be valuable and change. And he said, Mom, you know what? He said, what I think would be helpful is for bullying awareness to not be given just to the kids that are being bullied, but to the kids that are also bullying, because he said that he noticed that some of the kids that were bullying him were also being bullied by other kids. And, or like for one instance, one of the bullies, I ended up, happening to be outside with one of the moms and found out that, and I seen that one of the bullies were out there, and my son identified. And of course, I'm just a normal parent. I feel like sometimes, if you got common sense, if you're feisty and you're going to be in jail, then you shouldn't. But like if you're talking, sometimes other parents just aren't aware of what's going on, and just to have a conversation with the parent, there needs to be more parent involvement when there's bullying situations with all parents, because we found out one of the bullies' parents had also passed away, and they were going through a whole bunch, and there was DV at home. So this is something that the child was, being in an abusive situation at home. They came to school, they were mad, they took it out on other kids. So, I guess not just when you see that there is a bully, just kind of thinking that there's just the first thing is trouble, kind of identifying like, where's this coming from? See if there's some help that child can be getting, not just so they don't stop bullying, but just so if they are being abused, they don't become abusive like we are seeing happening. So again, my son just wanted you guys to know that sometimes he's seen kids that were bullied report bullying, report that they were being bullied when they were actually bullies. So, just, I don't know what we can do with that information, but just don't want to leave any stones unturned when we're trying to get change here.
No, I appreciate that, Abril. And I think it kind of answers the last question, right? I think that in order for us to start having a more productive relationship, we have to start on building that trust back. I also think that, I don't know, like I also want to have you guys, or my ask is for you people that are involved with the district to sit back and think on this. A lot of the times, we look at the district as a system, right? And then it's, the system has failed, or the system has this wrong with it, or that, or whatever. But for me, I look at you as part of that system. You're part of that equal sphere, right? Like, so my ask is for you guys to think, like, what are you guys willing to do or charged after hearing all of this? And I hope it doesn't come off as horror stories, right? But as I know these moms and these youth, we can't do nothing but tell our truth, right? I don't know how to do it any other way. I can't sugarcoat a bad situation. But I guess my charge or my ask of you when coming back is, how can we together rebuild this trust? How can we together kind of find ways to fix some of these cracks within this system? Because I don't think that it is impossible, but I know that people felt like a lot of it was beat up on Neely O'Brien thing. But like I said, I left from the bottom of the hill, and I'm still having similar situations, right? But how do we make it better where these kids feel heard, they feel valued, and it's not in a situation, like I said, I'm not even coming at you where it's a you against me, but it's a us thing, right? And how do we make this better?
Thank you for that, Charisse. And as was shared in the beginning of this session, it is not a one and done. Although the listening part portion, we'll have a second one. It's a two-part thing. It's not a one and done. It's ongoing. It is continuing to build that relationship. It's infinite. So we'll be back here again on Thursday of next week. Someone tell me what date that is. All my days are blurring together. That is the 25th. Thank you. The 25th. Everyone here tonight will come back and talk, just unpack all of this and to talk through those questions that Charisse has, that she's brought forward of taking a collective approach to this. When you see it through that collective lens, you see your own individual power and how you play into the system. So looking at this from a collective approach, a shared power approach. So I look forward to that discussion next week. Before we close out though, is there anything, Mahogany, any concluding statements? I know you're busy helping us with notes.
No, I don't have any concluding statements. Oh, I guess I do. Look, I don't have anything to say, but I have something to say. Just if anybody didn't get a chance to say what, didn't get a chance to speak, or there's still something that you want to express that you want to make sure is included in the notes, send it to the email or the Discipline Coalition. Send it to us and we will ensure that Kent School District gets it so that they can include it in their response and just in how we process and move forward. It's been, I'd say a heavy 2 hours, but a very important and a very human. I feel this space has been so restorative just because these are the conversations that slip through the cracks every day. But you see, we're here and we're talking about them because they actually do matter. And even though it seems like they get missed or slip through the cracks, we're never going to move forward unless we begin, making healthier decisions in the present for each other and for our children, most importantly. So make sure to email anything to that email address. If you have Charisse's number, if you have Charisse, your notes, my contact information, send it over. Anybody's contact information, even if the Kent School District, they drop their names in the chat. If you want to send it to them and let them know too, we're gonna be working together to make sure that your voices are reflected in the second part of this listening session. So, and like I said, in the link below, I'll be sending a survey with the notes by tomorrow to make sure that we're getting the notes compiled first. And so that way you guys are able to kind of see where we're going, and you can feel free to respond to the email that goes out with that feedback survey, because we want to make sure that Kent School District is getting your feedback, and we want to make sure that, we're taking a holistic approach. It's never too late. This conversation, like she said, is ongoing. So that's all I had to say.
I would like to say too, that I would like to thank the officials that did come and be brave enough to hear us without offense. And I'm excited that this conversation will be able to continue. And I ask that it to remain unoffensive, because until tonight, one thing I think that I wanted to share is that us parent leaders are very close out here. And I hadn't shared that story until today, when I was just coming to listen as a parent leader. I honestly did not know that we were going to, I shared my story today, and until today, I hadn't even said anything about what school my kid went to, anything, because I'm now in a different district. So I thank you for the platform, because it's like parents. If we don't know what our children are doing, we can't raise them the right way and get the best success and outcome. So I'm just excited about this platform, and I hope it continues, and that at the end we're able to smile and see that change has come.
Thank you, Erbril. And I think that is a perfect way to close out. Thank you, everyone. Be safe tonight, and we will see you all next week.
Thank you. Have a good evening.